Andy, my dude, have you heard of the magical website builder known as Squarespace?
Ugh, not another Squarespace ad. I feel like every podcast is sponsored by them.
Hey, don't knock it till you try it. Yes, okay, it is overhyped, but actually it lives up to the hype. Squarespace is like a website fairy godmother. With a click of a button, your site transforms into a beautiful masterpiece.
A website fairy godmother? That sounds interesting. What makes it so magical?
Well, for starters, those slick templates make anyone look like a professional web designer. Pick one, customize the colors and fonts to match your brand, and voila. Plus, the drag-and-drop fluid engine is so easy, your grandma could build a site on Squarespace.
Well, she did knit me a lovely scarf last Christmas. Maybe website design is next.
Exactly. And when you're ready to sell your Nana's handmade scarves online, Squarespace has built-in e-commerce. Add a store with one click. Get flexible payment options. Then watch those sales roll in. And when she wants to teach others her steezy scarf skills, Squarespace's new courses feature is just the ticket. Nana can set up her curriculum and enrollments and payments in a snap and become the next e-knitting influencer.
Oh, wow, you really sold me with the grandma angle. Sign me up for that free trial.
Just go to thenextreel.com/Squarespace and transform your site into a beautiful Squarespace masterpiece.
Well, thanks, Pete. Even though it's overhyped, Squarespace actually sounds perfect for Nana's site's needs. Appreciate the warning on the ads, though. I'll brace myself next time I listen to a podcast.
Anytime. Let me know if you need any help getting that site up and running. Andy, can you believe we've almost hit 700 episodes of The Next Reel?
I know, it's crazy. And with all the other episodes in our family of podcasts, we are well over 1,200 episodes of movie conversation. It's really pretty amazing that we've gotten to have these in-depth movie chats every week for over a decade now.
And we couldn't have done it without our loyal community of film fans. Their support over the years has meant so much.
For sure. That reminds me, we should give the merch store a shout out. Buying shirts from thenextreel.com/merch is a great way listeners can continue to support the show. Plus, they get to sport our great designs.
Absolutely. I think sometimes folks forget we have a variety of shirts, mugs, phone cases, and more available. In fact, a great place to start is with a shirt sporting the Next Reel's logo.
We also have that classic Fast Times Spicoli Surf School tee, or the weirdly popular Rusty's European Tour shirt.
The one from National Lampoon's European Vacation. Why is that so popular?
Search me, but we have sold a ridiculous number of those. I guess there are a lot of Rustys taking trips to Europe?
We're always adding new designs based on movies we've covered, like our brand new design for a streetcar named Desire, featuring a streetcar named Desire. So if you want to rep your love of TNR and films, head to thenextreel.com/merch.
Every purchase helps us continue to have these weekly in-depth conversations. So visit thenextreel.com/merch today.
And as always, thanks for listening and being a part of the Next Reel community. We've got lots more great movie chats coming your way. I'm Pete Wright.
And I'm Andy Nelson.
Welcome to The Next Reel. When the movie ends,
our conversation begins.
In just a matter of seconds, you're going to hear a classic episode of this show from back in the day when we called ourselves Movies We Like.
It took us a while to settle into the show's format, so you'll notice some differences as you listen to these episodes. For instance, it takes us a bit of time to actually get into the conversation about the movie. Things like that.
But we're still proud of the conversations about the movies themselves, and we think they're worth keeping in the library.
So enjoy these episodes from our back catalog. And you can become part of our Discord community, learn more about the show, and find out how you can become a supporting member at thenextreel.com.
So thank you, everybody, for downloading and listening to The Next Reel. We appreciate your time and attention, and we hope you enjoy the show. Okay.
Of everything, we're not that, like Gandalf the White just revealed himself. Guess what made her, of all the things that are across that much of the Lord of the Rings, guess what caused her to have the nightmares? I find it interesting.
Wow. I don't know. I mean, that film, I can imagine a lot of stuff giving nightmares, but what you're sort of setting me up.
I am. Most of the stuff, surprisingly, does not cause her any fear or nightmares at all. I'm really surprised.
Is it involved? Does the thing that causes nightmares involve orcs?
No.
Um,
And that's I thought would cause her nightmares, but not in the least.
Does it involve heights?
No.
Okay.
Gollum creeps her out. She doesn't like looking at Gollum, and I told her like once she saw Gollum appear in Two Towers, she wanted me to skip it. And I'm like, honey, he is in the entire rest of the series. If you can't watch Gollum, we're gonna have to wait until you're ready to watch Gollum because he is in everything. She's kind of okay with Gollum right now, but the thing that scares her more than anything, and it's interesting to me because it's not something I ever put any sense of fear in, but it's the Eye of Sauron.
Oh,
That eye, when Frodo puts the ring on, and that eye like zips across the landscape and stares at him and talks to him. She woke up in the middle of the night terrified because she has this little light next to her light switch so you can see where the light switch is.
And you have always called that Sauron.
I've called it the Eye of Sauron.
Put your Sauron on. Don't worry, honey. Sauron's watching.
Sauron's always watching.
You're a horrible father. That's awesome.
Oh, wicked. No, but that's it. I mean, she was terrified of Sauron, and I just never put any stock in that as anything scary at all.
Wow.
But I guess Peter Jackson and his team do create pretty overwhelming moments when that eye is looking at Frodo.
So you just watched it, right?
We just watched
after
Fellowship.
You saw the first time you saw the Desolation of Smaug, you watched it. Do you see Benedict Cumberbatch in the Eye of Sauron?
I looked really hard, but I did not see it there.
Then you didn't look hard enough.
I guess I didn't. He's just much deeper in there now. It's more like now I'm just looking at his foyer.
It's a well-appointed flat. It's a walk-up.
It's really just the sitting room now.
You saw Wolf of Wall Street?
I did. Full of excess. Isn't
that sort of what it was supposed to be full of?
It is. It's full of excess, both from a standpoint of
the
characters in the film, as well as the filmmaker making the film, the storytellers behind it. It is excess from beginning to end, and I mean it is a very enjoyable film. It just makes me sick, though. Like, this is the lifestyle. Here are the two things that make me sick. One is that this is how these people were living, and this debauchery is what was essentially controlling corporate interests in our country. And two, that people not only then looked up to him and wanted to be him, but still look up to him and want to be him.
Yeah, that's not great.
It doesn't bode well for the world as we know it.
That's too bad.
Yeah, it is.
This is thenextreel.com. My name's Pete Wright. That over there is Andy Nelson, and we spoil movies. And if you want to see all of the movies that we have spoiled in the past, don't worry, they're old movies. You can head over to thenextreel.com. You can catch the blog stylings of Steve Sarmento, nextreel.com/blog. You can join the conversation on Facebook or Google+. And we appreciate it if you subscribe to the show in iTunes. And, if you happen to leave us a review in iTunes, a 5-star review, those reviews, they help other people discover them. There's a lot of hubbub about reviews right now, but it's sad but true. If you listen to the show, we sure would appreciate a review. Let's do trailers, shall we?
Let's do them.
I'm going to do mine first. And I think it's unfair of me because I went first last week, but I think your trailer merits the closing position.
All right.
And mine is kind of the It's the flyweight this week. I'm doing believe it or not, a Dylan McDermott film. That's
Straight
right.
off the heels of Olympus Has Fallen.
You heard me. Dylan McDermott. You know his name's not even Dylan? Did you know that?
I didn't. What is his
Mark
name?
Anthony McDermott.
What?
Right?
That's cray-cray.
Guy's done Oh, man, would you knock it off?
Sorry. You're trying to be serious. All right, go ahead. Tell me all about Mark Anthony.
You know, I'm hating all over you right now. Film is by director Michael Solomon. Now, Michael Solomon is he's known for some things.
Well, yeah, and this is interesting. Speaking last week of cinematographers who turn to become directors, Michael Solomon is one of them, and he's done some decent stuff.
You know, he did some stuff.
Too.
Well, he did some stuff that I, as a cinematographer, that I'm all over. That we talk about either in love or mockery all the time. For example, The Abyss. I think we talk about with some love.
Absolutely.
Stealing Heaven. I think we talk about perhaps with a dose of mockery.
Maybe just a little bit.
They happened almost close to each other. Arachnophobia. I think we talk about with a little bit of love.
Creepy.
Backdraft.
Looks good.
Right? So there's a lot of stuff that this guy's got going on. He had some in the late 80s, early 90s, and then he got into directing in the late 90s through the 90s and the aughts. And now he's doing these films.
I think he does better when he's directing TV than when he's directing films. I think one of his early films was Hard Rain, which was not one of the better films out there.
Hard Rain. Wait a minute. Don't tell me that. I know that one. Was that like a Mark, what's his name, Wahlberg or?
No, that's
Christian Slater.
Christian Slater and Morgan Freeman, yeah. And a big rainstorm.
Right. Bank
robbers in a flood.
I remember that now, yeah. I remember that. Old Randy Quaid. Mm-hmm. You think he's better on TV is what you're saying?
Yeah, he's done lots of TV work. He really has become a TV director.
It's funny that you say that. First of all, the Coma. He did the Coma reboot miniseries, the two parts, and that was interesting. I don't know. Not that Coma needed a reboot, but it felt like what it was. And then when I look at the trailer for Freezer, it feels like Coma.
Yeah,
it feels very much like a TV
feel of it.
kind of. And maybe it's because so much of Dylan McDermott is held up for me in The Practice, and I have a hard time shaking that, even though he's done plenty of other stuff. It's written by Tom Doganoglu. Do we know him?
I don't personally. Shane
Weisfeld. They've got one credit. At least Shane has one credit. That's Freezer. And Tom Doganoglu. He's written a bunch of other stuff, shorts, and, well, not a bunch of other stuff. A couple other things. $8 million short. He was in this short, $8 million, and You're Fired. And now Freezer. So this is essentially a bit of a first-timer for a feature. Comes out 21st of January 2014. I think it's going straight to iTunes as well. So,
yeah, it should be streaming pretty soon, I believe.
Anyway, the story, we didn't even talk about the story. Robert is an ordinary man faced with an extraordinary circumstance. So, it's a movie.
Is that...
He is locked...
That's the most vague description.
I know, right? He's locked in a meat freezer by Russian thugs who believe that he owes them $8 million.
Yeah.
So...
I gotta say, it would really suck being trapped in a freezer by people who think you owe them money.
Well, and that's
I
why
certainly would never want to be in that position.
I don't like cold, and I don't like boxes. So that's why I picked this trailer.
If there was a shark in there too, then all my fears would have been realized.
Yeah. This is kind of I guess it's not a great season for trailers right now. I'm not finding a whole lot exciting until I see yours, which I have to tell you, you really brought it hard this week.
I'm pretty excited. I picked Stephen Chow's new film, Journey to the West, or as it's called on IMDb, Journey to the West, Conquering the Demons. It looks, if anyone who has watched any of Stephen Chow's previous films, I've only seen Kung Fu Hustle, but he also did Shaolin Soccer, which I missed, and CJ7, The God of Cookery. He's done lots of these kind of wacky, over-the-top comedy, kung fu sorts of films. Kung Fu Hustle is, I think, just one of the funniest, over-the-top comedy, lots of gore. It was pretty violent and gory and just over-the-top fun. Lots of fun. Journey to the West looks to be the same sort of film. It's about some demon hunters in kind of old school Japan, hunting demons basically, and they are, I don't know. There's a water demon, a pig demon. There's all these different people demons, and you just see them fighting these demons, and like they punch them and their face folds in, and just it's silly antics all the way through. Lots of stunts, lots of big effects. It looks like it's going to be just nonstop fun.
It's the
it looks
movie
like
you
a
want.
comic book.
It's the movie you want 47 Ronin to be.
That's right. It's a total goofball comic book movie, and I gotta say, it looks like it's going to be a lot of fun, and I really can't wait to watch it.
I'm excited about it. It does. It's that giant catfish.
Yeah,
you had me at giant catfish. Go watch this trailer. Find it at thenextreel.com. It's going to be just right there on the front page right now.
And it comes out March 7th in theaters and on iTunes. So you'll be able to see it however you want come March 7th. Look for it. Journey to the West.
Epic.
Yep.
Love it. And now, I think we should talk about this film.
Jeepers creepers, where'd you get those peepers? Peep show, creep show, where did you get those eyes?
And we got another ringtone. Yeah.
You gotta stop doing that.
And that's a clean in and a clean out. Oh, Andy.
What was I thinking?
Okay, I listened to the show last week.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember that? We did Hudsucker Proxy.
I remember.
You were there.
I was physically present.
So I recognize that I may have talked too much.
I see where this is going.
I may have talked too much on that film, and I was excited about it, and I recognize that some listeners may have listened to that episode and said, you know what, Pete was really reaching. That movie, I agree with Andy, that movie there just wasn't enough in that movie, and Pete's just really reaching. I deeply want those people to pay real close attention to whatever you say about tonight's film. I almost feel like I just want to not talk and see what happens.
In the 1930s, Hollywood was a place where dreams came true.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen in Radio Land.
Where nothing was common or ordinary. And anyone could have riches and fame. And so they came from the Midwest and the South, from the Bible Belt and the Ivy League, from vaudeville stages and carnival midways, beckoned by a promise of sunshine and stardom, beauty, and romance. It was the most exciting, most wonderful, most glamorous place on earth.
93, take 5.
Hollywood. Karen Black is Faye Greener. She wanted more than stardom. She wanted to live her dreams.
I'm in pictures. Only extra work now, but I haven't had a real chance yet.
William Atherton is Todd Hackett. He loved Faye enough to believe in her fantasy.
I like you a lot.
I love you.
Don't make me hurt you. You're very kind and clever. But I could only let a really rich man love me. I could only love someone criminally handsome.
Donald Sutherland is Homer Simpson. who would do anything to make her dreams come true.
I'm going to be a big star someday. It's the only thing in the world I want.
It's good to know what you want. You always wonder what the point was of Homer Simpson. He's not Rockefeller. Gable, he's not.
He respects me. And he doesn't want anything.
Forgive me for such unworthy thoughts, but sometimes I wish I could tear it all down.
The Day of the Locust, an unforgettable vision of love, success, and dreams.
We're doing The Day of the Locust, which is it's a 1975 John Schlesinger film starring William Atherton, Karen Black, Donald Sutherland, Burgess Meredith. Burgess Meredith. And
Jackie Earle Haley, and
of course Richard Dysart.
Yes,
there are a lot of people in this movie. Billy Barty, Jackie Earle Haley, as you said, Gloria Leroy, Madge Kennedy. Yeah, there are a lot of people,
and even you said John Hillerman, right?
I did.
Yeah, okay.
I should have if I didn't. This film is okay. Let me just get this out of the way. There is a lot to. Let me back up. Let me just start again. There are films that, if you like movies, if you're a lover of cinema, that you really want to see, right? You want to have those in your sort of mental collection as having seen those films.
Whether you like it or not.
No. That's the second category.
You should see.
No. There's you want to see. You want those in your collection, and then there are films you have to see. because you just really believe that seeing that film is going to add something to your overall ability to talk about film. And then there is this third category, which are films that you can't explain, that the only reason you're seeing them is because Andy told you to.
Well, that's a very specific category.
It's a short yet growing, ironically, list. Let me tell you, there are things I like about this film. First of all, I like it's based on the book by Nathaniel West, and the book was written. When was the book written? It was like in the 30s, right?
1939. Set in Hollywood at the time of the Great Depression, and so it definitely was a very timely novel when the novel came out.
And I think it was equally timely covering this, this in the mid 70s.
Sure, absolutely.
And I love that about it. And I'm kind of a sucker for these cultural mirror films, right? I love it when in contrast to last week, I think this film is saying something. I look forward to hearing what that is. But I think it's saying something. What I love about it is the way it focuses on the fringe. This isn't a Hollywood film per se. We get sort of doused in Hollywood, but really this is on the peripheral, and the characters we end up really caring about are the periphery characters. I love the position of sort of where we are as audience in this film. And most of it I find sort of boring, and then it's kind of abusive to me. And then it ends, and then it's just over, and I don't know what to make of it. So please, Andy, tell me now. I'm going to shut up now, and you tell me what to make of it.
I've seen it twice now, and this is a film that is a total head trip. It really throws you for a loop. And the first time I watched it, I think I reacted much the way you did. I was like, what did I just watch? I was just assaulted, and I have no idea what to make of this craziness. It really is a mind-boggling journey into the darkest part of what Hollywood turns people into, in a way. Especially back in the 30s, which is the specific era the film takes place in, and the novel, which we already said. But also, it really kind of expands across all of the time, and this really could be almost set any day. This is really a film that could happen at any time about, like you said, the fringes, these people who are in Hollywood, who are either trying to get in to Hollywood, trying to make it big, or once were big and aren't anymore and now are stuck kind of in the past and kind of reliving their old glory, kind of like that whole Gloria Swanson Sunset Boulevard sort of thing. That it has this this interesting veneer on it where everything it's all trying to make things beautiful, but they're not. And like the way that he takes when Todd, played by William Atherton, first moves into this apartment, he takes the picture off the wall and sees this big crack on the wall, and it's because of an earthquake that had happened, and they never bothered fixing it because they liked it. And instead of putting the picture back on it, he keeps the picture off, and he puts a flower in the crack. So now you've got this crack down the wall with a flower in it. And I don't know, to me, watching it a second time now, it really kind of, that image really kind of spoke a lot about what this film is. You've got this kind of ugly veneer across much of society and in Hollywood in particular, and they're always trying to kind of gloss it over and put something pretty on it to make it into something that it's not. And I don't know, there's a lot of things going on in this film. It deals with a lot of these interesting characters that are there. We've got Todd, who is in the art department in this studio, and he falls for this woman who's an extra, played by Karen Black. This probably her greatest performance. I mean, she's pretty wild in this film.
Well, and you just I think in your overview of the film, you really you sort of you present a kind of grand unifying theory of characters in this film, right? And it's really heralded by Karen Black, making Karen Black something that she is not, as right. A very loose metaphor for Hollywood. It in fact ends up being wildly destructive.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, she really kind of destroys everyone she comes into contact with, as beautiful as she makes herself. Whether she's working as an extra or working as always striving to work as an actress. I mean, even at one point saying she's not going to take any extra work. She's only focusing on acting work. And then we never see her get any acting work. She just goes back to doing more extra work is what we see. Mm-hmm. And but she always does seem to be kind of wanting more. And so she's kind of that character that's always, it's like that crack that you're putting the flower into,
right?
Yeah, that's exactly what she is. And even at the end of the film, she's at this premiere not as a star getting out of the car. She's there as a fan. She's in the crowd watching as Ginger Rogers gets out of the car, and she's still one of the mass that's drawn to this world, and she wants to be part of that world, but is on the outside banging the door trying to get in.
Yeah.
And for me, I think that's what a lot of the film is. And, there's a lot of interesting aspects that we see. We see, this vaudevillian characters, this door-to-door salesman that her father, Burgess Meredith, is. We see cockfighting, which kind of comes in as a strange fringe activity. You've got this whole church, this like reborn Christian church that we kind of go into. Even the funeral I find extremely interesting because it's not just a funeral when her father dies, but as Todd finds by sitting in the back of the funeral, all of these people who are watching the funeral of her father are really only there because they heard that Clark Gable was going to be on the funeral grounds or in the cemetery grounds. And as soon as they hear that his car has arrived, they all go running out of the funeral so that they can go stalk Clark Gable. I mean, it's really a disturbing scene,
right? Which is mirrored in many respects in the big Chinese theater, escapade, as the announcer is screaming over and over how excited everybody must be when in fact they're driven to riot.
Yeah, riot and murder, really.
Yeah.
I mean, putting up this character, basically, making a sacrifice out of him. I mean, it's horrifying.
Yeah.
This depiction of Hollywood is possibly one of the most frightening depictions of Hollywood I've seen. It really. You keep seeing newspapers with big important headlines of things going on at the time. Nobody is paying attention to the newspaper headlines at all. Like at one point, they're with her extra buddies as they're all sitting down in a gully eating roast chicken on the fire. That's kind of a campfire. And instead of looking at the newspaper, that he uses it as a plate to put the chicken onto. And we see another newspaper later outside the theater at the end at the big premiere. Nobody's paying attention to the big headlines in the newspaper. All people care about is this world of movie stars and big shining lights and the gloss and the glamour of all of it. It really paints a very frightening picture of society and Hollywood. And I think that's why, I after watching the first film, or the film the first time, I came back at it going, gosh, I don't know if I liked it that much, but a lot of stuff stuck with me. Watching it a second time, I'm like, I think I actually do like the film. It's a really disturbing film. It's not a film I would want to watch very often, but I think it's a really frightening look at this world.
Yeah, I think that gets it. This film is a film about an era and a microculture that I think it's unique because those who are in it, particularly those on the fringe, are both drawn into it and resentful of it.
Yeah.
Right? And that
Right.
conflict is what we're celebrating in the Day of the Locust for
Yeah.
me. Right in the middle of, I have to be here. I have to be here. I have to celebrate whatever inner calling, this inner demon. I have to exercise this demon, and Hollywood is the place I have to do it, and I hate myself for it. And
Yeah.
the degree to which I hate myself for it is the degree to which I am driven to do horrible, demeaning things
Right.
to celebrate that alienation. And I think we have a just sort of mod squad of like the bleeding. I mean, we get a dwarf, the cockfighting, a harem girl. I mean, the androgynous child.
Yeah.
Who ends up being stomped to death by the completely alienated and sex-starved Homer Simpson, played terrifyingly by Donald Sutherland.
Yeah, it's really, I think, one of his most disturbing performances.
It really is. I wanted to, because of the level of disturbance, I really want to love his performance here. I think it's hard to do. But I definitely appreciate it.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a hard character to like. It's a hard performance to really connect with, but it is pretty powerful. Watching his transition from this meek, you could almost call him a naif.
Yeah.
He's very. This is a world he lives in Los Angeles, but you get a sense that he has never come in contact with anybody from the Hollywood world until her father and subsequently Faye end up in his house and at his doorstep and basically tie him into this whole world and really lead him down a horrifying path of destruction.
Ugh. Talk about Waterloo.
I'm not really sure what to make of the whole. Waterloo is basically this whole production design element that Todd has been, told to design by his boss, played by Richard Dysart, Claude Esty, the production designer of the film. And he, in the context of the film, not of the film itself, he tells him to, he's got to design this whole thing. And so he gets inspiration from when he is actually having this chicken camp out and the whole tree and the landscape with this hill. And he designs this big set that gets built, and then they start shooting on it before it's ready. They get to it like 3 days or something before the stage is actually ready, and it leads to the whole stage collapsing. It really, to me, speaks of Hollywood's interest in money more than anything, and I think a lot of that comes.
Yeah, as we see more in the after effects.
Yeah, right. I mean, we see this horrifying destruction as the whole stage falls on people and everybody's injured, and it's just this horrifying mess. Luckily, nobody's killed, as they are saying as all of the heads are getting haircuts. You know, Richard Dysart, as the production designer, along with one of the heads of the studio, they're talking about, oh, you know, the insurance will cover it. Nobody died. We're in the clear. We had the signs up, even though Todd says, no signs were up. And they're like, oh, don't worry. Yeah, they were fine. Here, I want to buy you a haircut. As the head of the studio kind of woos him and into, you know, basically complacence by giving him a haircut and basically putting that out of his mind. And even later when he talks to Claude Esty about the whole idea that those signs weren't up, he's just like, you know, it doesn't matter. Nobody was killed. You know, it's fine. It doesn't matter. It's all about the bottom line. It's you know, we would find a way to get past it, and we would still put the movie out there and still have to make our money.
Yeah,
it's a machine. It's just like the corporate machine, you know, that we were talking about in last week in Hudsucker Proxy and all those other movies that we mentioned. It's another form of a corporate machine. It's not one company, though. It's the whole, essentially the machine of Hollywood, and how it cranks these movies out, and how they put all this money in and they have to get it out there. And if people get hurt, well, people get hurt. You know what? We still got to make our money back.
It is the entertainment industrial complex.
Yes.
So, okay, William Atherton, this was one of his earlier films. How'd he do?
I like him in this. I think every time I watch this, I go, this is why I like him so much in Die Hard, because I think he works really well as a foil or as kind of a supporting player. I have a hard time with him when he's in it so much, or whether he's kind of this I don't know. I guess I wouldn't say he's really the lead, even though we're seeing this world through his eyes, and he's, you know, falling for Faye and all of that. I still think that the story ends up being more about Faye and Homer, and Todd is really kind of just our window into this world as we watch these other two characters. But still, I think that I enjoy watching him on this, but I enjoy him in smaller roles, I think.
You know, I don't know. I think this was I'm with you. I usually like him in smaller roles and as that foil character, and you know, he'll never be, you know, in my head it's hard to shake Walter Peck.
Yeah.
You know, his sort of legendary role in Ghostbusters.
Right.
But in this one, I struggled. I think I got over it. I think maybe watching this film a second time would help. But I think I got over seeing him as sort of the early kind of leading man type. It was a stretch. And I think he sort of embraced being typecast as that kind of foil. He's done a lot of work and has a deep catalog. And they, you know, I think there are a few roles that sort of mimic what he's done here. But it was mostly interesting to see him as such a young man.
Yeah, right.
It's a complex role because at one point, you know, you're right. He's sort of the leading man in this film, but also not our protagonist necessarily. Like, if we can say there's one in this film, you know, the sequence when he kind of loses his head and goes after Faye at the campfire is
certainly a horrifying moment.
Well, it's hard to. I mean,
yeah, it's hard to really like him much after that.
That's what I was going to say. It's hard to recover any feeling of like any sort of affinity that I may have had for him after that moment is pretty much gone. Even though, you know, they've already set me up to believe that she's kind of a floozy, and that, you know, you feel like there's a stereotype they're trying to set in that relationship, and it sort of doesn't work on all fronts. And I don't know if it's because, you know, I'm watching it with the sensibilities of of 2013, 2014. There's my first mistake. But it doesn't hold up, and it makes me sort of not know who to follow in this film going, you know, after that point.
Yeah.
I mean, do you see anybody is there anybody else that you follow as kind of a protagonist in this film?
Well, I mean, it is kind of his journey as he comes into this world.
But there's nobody else likable.
Well, no, I mean it is hard to really like any of the characters. I mean, to a certain extent, I could say that it's Faye. She's the first person we see. I mean, it's her. She is our first image of the film.
Right.
It could be Faye. I mean, as flighty as she is, but I don't know if her transition leads me to believe that it really was her. I don't know. This is one of those films that it's based on a novel that it feels much more novelistic than screenplay.
Right.
It feels like they took the novel and made the novel, and they weren't worried about fitting it into any 3-act structure, or they weren't worried about, okay, well, let's rework this a little bit so our protagonist is clear and people can connect with them and they make it through. Like, it doesn't feel like it has quite the right structure for it. It does feel more like a novel where you've got an interesting number of characters that we're following over the course of it. Todd, Faye, Homer, even her father, Harry. I mean, to a certain extent, there's a number of these characters that we're kind of following over the course of the story that I think could all have moments of being the protagonist in the film, but I don't know if I'd say any of them are.
Yeah, I agree with that. Back to your point where, it could be that we're meant to follow Faye. Structurally, it doesn't work as a film because she is played as such a floozy.
Yeah.
She's not strong enough to be somebody I think that we care about at the level of kind of a protagonist, and maybe that's the kind of the fault of the adaptation.
Well, and she does, yeah. And I've never read the book, so I can't say. But she doesn't really have a big change. I mean, yes, she kind of at the end, as she runs off and comes back to his apartment after he's moved out, and kind of has that look. But at the same time, it's just like, I don't think that she's gone through any big change. Not that your protagonist has to go through a change, but I don't think that there was much growth in her. It seems to be more him. Todd is the one who grew and changed over the course of the film. But still, maybe it's just that he's just not as likable a protagonist as we want him to be. Maybe that's what it is.
Well, yeah, he's not as likable, and she doesn't want it bad enough.
Yeah. And Homer,
Homer kills an androgynous boy with his feet.
And he doesn't come into the story until like 45 minutes.
Exactly.
So it's hard to call him much of the protagonist. I mean, he certainly is an interesting character from that point forward. And see, that's another thing. It's like the film, the way that it is structured, like it moves from character to character in such a way that you're not sitting with Todd for huge chunks of the film where it feels like it's Todd's film. Like once we meet Homer, we stay with Homer for a while and we kind of get to know him a little bit before we go back to Todd. So it feels less, modern screenplay. It definitely has more of a novel feel to it.
Absolutely.
So, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, in a case like a film that's working like this, I think having more of this kind of vignette sort of feel as we go through these different situations, I think it can work.
I think for me, Burgess Meredith is a real highlight of the film.
Yeah, he's pretty fantastic in this film. I mean, he was nominated for an Oscar in this film. It's an interesting role playing this kind of former vaudevillian salesman sort of guy, and I think for me the biggest moment of tragedy is seeing him at his funeral when his face is, I mean, talk about frightening. I mean, he painted himself to look like a clown earlier as he's kind of drunk and dancing around his room. When he's in his coffin, he looks more clownish with the makeup that he has in his coffin than he did when he was painting himself up as a clown.
Yeah, that's gruesome.
Yeah.
That's just horrible.
It was pretty frightening. But Burgess Meredith is always fun to watch.
Well, it is, and the reason I bring him up right now is that if you look at any character who is sort of likable, it's him. We don't get. I mean, he tells some pretty dark stories, but you see a guy who's just trying to make ends meet, and he's trying to do it in a way, the only way he knows how, and that's sort of a fringe tale. It's like it's the only tale that this old man could weave. Yeah, is by tapping his feet and selling a mystery elixir,
right?
Selling snake oil. And watching him screw that up every single time he approaches somebody, it's fantastic, because he just doesn't have the dexterity for the road show anymore.
Right. That's tragic.
It is tragic.
It's a tragic moment. And the moment where you see him playing cards, I think Todd comes into their place to look for Faye. He sees Harry in there playing cards with a couple old ladies. Something about that scene of the way they're playing cards and the way that, Todd brings him a light to have in his place to give it a little more light and everything. Oh, and there's also the two Alaskan natives who he says were brought down from by Hollywood from Alaska to do reshoots on Nanook of the North. And they just never left, and so they're all sitting around this table playing cards. It felt very much like the card game in Sunset Boulevard, where you have Gloria Swanson, Charlie Chaplin. I can't remember who all's in that scene. Buster Keaton, all sitting. Actually, I don't know if Charlie Chaplin's in there, but you got all those great old faces sitting around the table, playing cards, hanging out, reliving the old times. And it's just kind of there's an element of sadness to it. They're reliving the past without having moved on to the present. And that's how Burgess Meredith. That's how his character feels to me.
Yeah. I think that characterizes that well. We've talked a little bit about Karen Black already.
I think I remember her most from. She's been in a lot of movies. I mean, Family Plot, Five Easy Pieces, Nashville. The thing that always sticks out for me is Trilogy of Terror, which is, I think, kind of funny that that's what I remember her for. But Trilogy of Terror was just one. I have a thing for those silly horror anthology films. I love them. And Trilogy of Terror is just one. She's, I think, fighting that little. Voodoo troll thing in that one. It's just so fun, so silly. Good old Karen Black.
She's been in a lot of stuff.
She's been in a lot of stuff. Definitely somebody who's been around the block, and she owns this film. I mean, I think if her performance didn't come off right, or if a different person played it, I don't know if the film would have had the same frightening intensity that it does. I think she brings something to the character of Faye Greener that is at one time it's confident and brazen, at another time it's broken and angry, another time it's jealous. I mean, she just brings so many things to it, and I find it really fascinating to watch her moving through the film.
She maybe, and there's some pretty horrific stuff at the end, but maybe the scariest part of the film is her singing to herself in her makeup mirror. The Jeepers Creepers bit.
Yeah. That is pretty creepy. Could you see Goldie Hawn playing that role? Goldie Hawn was offered that role. They turned it.
No, I can't see that.
It would have been very interesting because Goldie Hawn had just done Sugarland Express with William Atherton, actually, just the year before. So it would have been very weird if it was those two. I actually think Karen Black is perfect for this.
It was... she has a great performance. I got totally sidetracked because I thought for a minute that Karen Black was in Phantasm, but she wasn't. But then that made me think we should do an Angus Scrimm series because it would be short but gross. I mean, he's been in like 50 things, but I can only think of a couple of movies I would want to do.
That's too funny.
Okay. So then we need to go back to the Day of the Locust. All right.
Yes.
Kathy, what are we talking about? Okay.
So what would you think of Yeah, Karen Black we like.
Yeah.
Richard Dysart.
Yeah, that was
speaking
the
of
next
our
thing I
Richard
was
Dysart
gonna
says,
say.
yeah.
Exactly. Young man. Richard Dysart playing an older, middle-aged young man, but I know him so much as an older man. And I thought he was great as the kind of morally detached executive.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to describe his character.
Yeah. I bought it. I bought the role. You know what I liked much about it was the role that he was creating with Todd. But when you see him come unhinged at the because he's at the cockfight.
Right, he's at the cockfight.
When he just sort of comes unhinged at the cockfight and you see him kind of that intensity build and you see, I think he really conveyed this this sense of a man who is well put together with all of the things that he can't say out loud deep inside of him. You know what I mean? Like, why would he be at a cockfight and why would he be enjoying it? When he's, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think that's an interesting thing to bring up because he also, earlier in the film, brings Todd, his new protege, to like a party, like this kind of fancy party where they're watching stag films.
Exactly.
And it's that's what this world is about. It's like these people who are in it aren't getting enough of something, and so they're always looking for the next thing to kind of stimulate them a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So first it's these stag films, and all I can think about when I watch that scene is the fact that Mrs. Howell is the one who is basically the madam there.
Right. Mrs.
I was just
Howell.
like, oh, Mrs. Howell.
Oh, my goodness.
From Gilligan's Island.
That's brilliant.
All I can think about every time I see that scene is like, what is she doing?
Well, it's interesting that, so we have these two bits, right? This guy who shows up who goes around and watches these stag parties, and then we have him go to the cockfights, and the sort of third element is we see him how desensitized he is when the entire set collapses and injures a bunch of people,
right?
And I think that really beautifully encapsulates what the film is trying to get across here to me, that Hollywood is really what you think it is, right?
Yeah.
There's no substance to it at all. And and so we're gonna demonstrate that by showing you just how detached we are as we try to find some way to activate those nerve endings that are so long dead.
Right. It just keeps upping to the point where it's essentially the press man narrating how excited the crowd is when they're tearing a man to pieces.
And what was it he was saying? I don't remember, but who were they waiting for? They were waiting about. I think
every
they're
time
so
a
excited
car,
that
right. There's another car pulling up. And then he's like, "Oh, there's something going on across the street." This crowd, they really get excited. They, it's just kind of that sort of stuff. I mean, it's a radio guy because obviously there was no TV back then. It's just the photographers, and then he was doing it all on the radio, talking about how excited the crowd was and how the police are here and they've got everything under control and the crowd is just so excited. Who could it be? What's going on over there? I can't quite see. And it's just that energy of something exciting happening and he has no idea what it is, but he's just going to pitch it as something that's got to be great and amazing for everybody to enjoy without realizing. Without realizing, and essentially, you're right. It doesn't matter. Like all the newspapers that no one's paying attention to. Nobody back home listening on the radio really cares that there's this man who's stomped a child to death and now is being torn apart by the crowd. They just want to hear how exciting it is because Ginger Rogers just stepped out of her car.
That's what it was, right?
Yeah.
Grim. So let's see. Anybody else you want to highlight as we talk about? As we near the end of this conversation,
have we talked about Waldo Salt at all?
No,
the screenwriter
we
for this.
Haven't. I'm glad you brought that. Or John Schlesinger. We need to talk. Yeah,
absolutely.
Waldo Salt.
Yeah, he was blacklisted for a little while, and somehow he ended up making it through that relatively unscathed. And I mean, has he written a lot of great stuff. I mean, aside from this, Midnight Cowboy, Serpico, Coming Home. What else did he do? He did, things like, I think this may have been...
Well, the Philadelphia Story was uncredited.
Yeah, Philadelphia Story. I think he may have done some things like Swiss Family Robinson and Ivanhoe, as he was probably trying to, make his way out of the mess of the Red Scare and the blacklist and everything. But yeah, I mean, he's a guy who'd been around for writing scripts since the 30s. Really, he was a uncredited writer on the Philadelphia Story in 1940. He's a guy who was around for a long time, and I think toward the end of his career, I think are some of his strongest scripts that he wrote, the ones that I really connect with. And he did win a couple Oscars for Coming Home and for Midnight Cowboy, where he obviously has worked with Schlesinger before. And I think he's just one of those writers that has some good scripts in him that he cranked out, and a lot of other solid work.
Well, you can really feel the craft in this film. I think in terms of the craft of adventurous narrative. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like he really was. You can feel like he was taking a risk. There's nothing formulaic about this film.
Yeah, not at all. Not at all.
John Schlesinger.
Yeah, he. Excuse me. He had been. He had been directing and acting, and I mean, he's been around for quite a while. He directed. The last thing he directed was in 2000, the next big thing, which unfortunately, that was that Madonna Rupert Everett movie. That was so bad that I walked out of it, which I rarely do, but it was really atrocious. It was atrocious. And then he passed away in 2003, but
I should tell you, and I don't want to give anything away. But he actually directed one of my guilty pleasures.
Oh, did he really? Mm-hmm. What could that be?
I don't know. Do you want to try and guess? Because we have this series coming up. It's a very brief series where we're going to toss each other a guilty pleasure.
That's right.
And he's actually got one. So I'll leave that. You see if you can figure that out. That'll be fun. And it's not The Falcon and the Snowman.
Pacific Heights.
I'm not saying anything.
That's right. You're not going to say anything. But we have talked about him before because he did Marathon Man.
That's right.
Yeah.
Which we liked a lot.
And he did that right after he did this.
Talk about an interesting pairing, right? Day of the Locust is this wandering film of negativity, talking about the Hollywood industrial complex and how there is no soul, to Marathon Man, which is another really grim view of the 70s.
Yeah, right. Both of these films really do kind of stand out as prime examples of films in the 70s.
They really
Day
do.
of the Locust and Marathon Man, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely do.
Interesting. Any other specifics before we talk money?
I don't think so. I think that pretty much covers everything, except that, Jackie Earle Haley is really frightening as the young boy, the androgynous child in this. I mean, so much so that, he creeps me out, and I feel sorry for him at the same time. Like when I see the way that his mother is training him to do all these dances and everything, it saddens me, but he just creeps me out. And I'm not that upset when he gets stomped to death, I guess, as horrible as that is. But he's just such a spiteful little thing, isn't he?
There's a thing, I kept thinking about this movie as I'm watching it about, Haley's character, that here he is playing this role of this annoying, kid striving for, stardom. And I wonder just how close his relationship with his mother was to the relationship with his mother in this film. Like he was obviously that age, and Anyway,
Right.
we know him, I think, more recently.
Yeah, he lost track of his career. He kind of disappeared for from 93 until 2006 when I think it was Sean Penn mentioned him when he was doing All the King's Men. He mentioned him to the director, and they brought him in to be in All the King's Men, and then he was Little Children and got an Oscar nomination. And his career it's like a whole rebirth in his career, which is exciting because I think he's just a fantastic actor, and I really enjoy watching him. But I mean, you see some of his old stuff like Breaking Away or The Bad News Bears. I think that's where I first recognized him, is from the Bad News Bears movies that I saw as a kid. And love so much, and it's just those are fun to watch. And then recently, in my Tom Cruise thing that I'm doing, he was in Losing It, which is one of Tom Cruise's early films, and it's an atrocious film, directed by Curtis Hanson, and he's like a totally different character than I ever would have expected, Jackie Earle Haley. So he definitely, even as a young actor, I think was proving himself to be kind of, a versatile actor.
Well, versatile, and then he comes back and he ends up doing, after, Little Children, All the King's Men, he does Semi-Pro, and then where I rediscovered him, I had not made any connection to him even in All the King's Men, but rediscovered with a mask on his face, playing, Rorschach in 2009's Watchmen, and he is coming up in the reboot of RoboCop, 2014. So.
Yeah, he was perfect as Rorschach too.
He really was. I don't know. Am I one of a few people who love that film? I really enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it. I mean, I enjoy it and the graphic novel, but it's not a movie I feel like sitting through very often. But I think they did a great job with it.
Yeah, me too.
Right. Billy Barty was in this too, and it's it's fun seeing him in this. And it's the scene at the cockfight with Billy Barty, just, I don't know, there's something really disturbing about how he's taking care of that chicken, trying to kind of bring it back to...
When he like breathes
in its mouth or something, and then he's like licking its beak. And
that was just not right.
It's like, and this is, I don't know, I'm guessing that this film, I didn't check, but I'm guessing that it did not have Humane Society reps on set. It looks to me like it's a real cockfight.
Yeah, that was grim.
It is pretty. It takes you right to the place where these people go to. It really takes you to these awful things that they start watching and enjoying because they're kind of numb to the world.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
But he was terrific in this film.
He is. He really is. Yeah.
All right. How did it do in the box? Did you find any numbers on what it cost to make?
I couldn't find any numbers on what it cost to make it. The film did come out May 7th, 1975. And it looks like it made in 1975 dollars about $17.8 million, which equates to adjusted about almost $76 million. So it did pretty well for itself, but I couldn't find anything as to how much it cost, so I can't give the full comparison there.
All right. Well, do you recommend this to people?
This is a film I would recommend to people with a warning.
Yeah.
It's not for everybody. It certainly is not a film that's for everybody. It's definitely a film that I think anyone who's interested in film, it's a film that's worth investing some time in because it is an interesting look at old world Hollywood that also reflects very much all of Hollywood across the time. And but it's a hard film to watch. It's not something you just put on for fun. But it's a really fascinating film. It is full of surreal imagery. That's something we didn't mention was like the paintings that Todd does for his production design, and how as basically Hollywood is burning down at the end, you have these moments where these characters, almost like from his paintings, are walking through the landscape, and you see like it's almost like his imagery has come to life, and you see just just nutty, surreal things. And it's the whole film is a very surreal look at the dark gutter of Hollywood.
The let's see, Vincent Canby, in the New York Times, calls it less a conventional film than it is a gargantuan panorama, a spectacle that illustrates West's dispassionate prose with a fidelity to detail more often found in a gimcracky biblical epic than in something that so relentlessly ridicules American civilization. This movie is far from subtle, but it doesn't matter. It seems that much more material was shot than could easily be fitted into the movie, even at 144 minutes. It is reality projected as fantasy. It's grossness. It's bigger-than-life quality. It is so much a part of its style and what West was writing about that one respects the extravagances, the almost lunatic scale on which Mr. Schlesinger has filmed its key sequences. I really liked that part.
Yeah, it's good. And it all fits with that whole biblical feel of the title of the film, The Day of the Locust. Right. It's like this biblical plague has settled on the land of Hollywood and is eating it alive.
Yeah. Let's rank it.
Let's.
Head over to flickchart.com/thenextreel. You can follow us or friend us or whatever you need to do there. Flick us there and see all the films that we have ranked and reviewed over our years.
This will be an interesting one because I think it's a film that really has stuck with me since I've seen it. I don't think it's a film I would put on very often, but I think there's a lot to it.
So does that mean we're ranking this on
I think it's going to change.
Cinematic importance?
No, I think it changes every time. I think there are times where I feel a film's cinematic importance outweighs how much I like a film, but there are other times where I think how much I like a film outweighs another film's cinematic importance.
Okay.
I think that's fair to say.
I think it is too.
All right, The Day of the Locust or Inside Man?
Inside Man.
I would go with Inside Man as well. The Day of the Locust or Miller's Crossing?
Miller's Crossing.
Yeah, I think I would go with Miller's Crossing. It's kind of a complicated story, but it is fun to watch. The Day of the Locust or You're Next?
The Day of the Locust.
I would go with The Day of the Locust.
That's
The Day of the
funny.
Locust? Why?
Because I think it makes me want to go listen to your next show again.
I like Your Next. I mean, it's but I don't know. It's definitely an easier film to watch than The Day of the Locust, as gruesome as it is.
Yeah.
But I just find that I would rather watch The Day of the Locust because I feel like I would end up getting more out of it at the end of the day.
True.
The Day of the Locust or Bullet?
Bullet.
I'm a little torn on this one, but I think I will lean Bullet just because of the car chase. The Day of the Locust or Christmas in Connecticut?
Let's see how to compare those two. I'm going to go Christmas in Connecticut on this one.
Are ya?
Yeah.
I feel like I need to go The Day of the Locust. I don't know. I'm a little torn. I just feel like there's so much going on in The Day of the Locust, and you have to admit the last 20 minutes of The Day of the Locust is like epic, horrifying cinema at its finest.
Yeah, I mean, I agree.
But you'll take Romps in the Snow and Sydney Greenstreet.
I do like me some Sydney Greenstreet. You know what? I'm going to give you this one because I'm kind of on the fence on it. But this I think is a great example of importance of this discussion of cinematic importance, because when you compare those two, there is no other way to compare those two films.
Right.
Right.
That one really falls down to how much do you like Christmas in Connecticut?
Right. Right.
It's like, and it's a very fun film, but I can only watch that at Christmas time.
Right.
So,
yeah.
I don't know.
Okay.
The Day of the Locust or Major League?
You go first.
I feel like I would go The Day of the Locust only because Major League, I have so much fun with it, but it always feels so dated.
Major League feels dated compared to Day of the Locust?
Day of the Locust? I mean, maybe it's because it's a period film. I don't know. And we didn't even mention John Barry's amazing music in that film, or Conrad Hall's gorgeous cinematography on the film. I mean, it's a gorgeous film all across the board, The Day of the Locust, as horrifying as it is.
But most of it's also kind of boring.
I don't know. I found it so much less boring my second go around.
All right, but I can't rank it on second go arounds yet. I'm not there. And I don't
Donald Sutherland or Charlie Sheen.
Oh, criminy.
That's such an unfair thing to throw at you.
All right, Day of the Locust, I hate you.
All right, The Day of the Locust or Thor, The Dark World.
Thor.
Now, exactly. Here is a moment where I'll have a lot more fun watching Thor romp through the 9 realms than watching Donald Sutherland stomp Jackie Earle Haley to death. All right. The Day of the Locust, number 107 out of 129.
Didn't crack.
I'm not surprised that this didn't crack.
I'm not surprised either. I think it didn't crack for the right reasons.
Yeah, it's a hard film to get up there. I mean, I would love to meet a person who has this as their favorite film. That it really takes you to a dark place. So maybe I wouldn't love to meet that person.
Yeah, maybe you wouldn't. I wonder how Jackie Earle Haley feels about this film.
I'm curious. Donald Sutherland, who stomps a child to death, of course, ends up now running a dystopian future where he pits children to kill each other.
Hey, I didn't make that connection. Well done. Well done.
There you go.
Good talk. Where do we go from here?
We're going to continue chatting about the wonderful Richard Dysart with the absolutely fantastic film Being There.
I do like this
that
film a lot.
Yeah, it's one of my faves.
Good one. Excellent. So, yeah, I guess that's it. You looking forward to anything great this coming week?
Nope, not looking forward to anything.
Good. The right level of first world apathy.
That's right. You heard it here first.
Good talk. All right.
Awesome.
I gotta go to bed.
Night. Jeepers creepers.
It is hard to believe that we have been having in-depth weekly conversations about movies since 2011.
So many great conversations over the years about so many great movies.
And some stinkers.
Well, true. But producing this show week after week requires a ton of work behind the scenes. If you'd like to help support our efforts, one easy way is by using our Originals page when shopping for books and movies that we've covered.
Just visit thenextreel.com/originals. Your purchases made through our links give us a small commission at no extra cost to you and allow us to keep having these great discussions.
In Season 3, we covered even more great adaptations like The Night of the Hunter and It Happened One Night, both part of our Couples on the Run series.
We talked about No Country for Old Men. The Coen brothers so rarely adapt someone else's work.
We had some fun rom-com adaptations like About a Boy, based on the Nick Hornby novel, and Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist, adapted from Rachel Cohn and David Levithan's book.
In our terribly and naively named foreign language series, we discussed The Brilliant City of God and The Diving Bell and the Butterfly, which I won't ever be able to watch again, ever.
But could you read the original memoir?
I don't know, maybe?
We had our Richard Dysart series with adaptations like The Day of the Locust and Being There.
Plus, we had that fantastic interview with the man himself.
The one where we had him sit on the floor?
Because this chair was so squeaky. Good times.
We did our first Tom Hanks series with Forrest Gump, adapted from Winston Groom's novel, plus Apollo 13, based on Lost Moon by Jim Lovell.
And we did another year series looking at films from 1981, including Das Boot, Gallipoli, and Thief, all based on books.
Listeners can dive deeper into all of these original stories and more at thenextreel.com/originals. Every book, play,
Movie,
video game. You bet. We have talked about some video game adaptations as well. It doesn't matter the source, just follow the link. Every purchase supports the podcast.
Check out the full list at thenextreel.com/originals and get reading, watching, performing, or playing today.